This DJNTV show is sponsored by DJ Event Planner, Electra Voice, DJ Trivia and DJ Bingo, ProX Direct, NLFX Pro, Promo Only, Odyssey Cases, Perfect Portals, Instant DJ Requests, and our DJNTV Insiders. This is John Young from DJNTV. Thanks for watching.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Monday night. Thank you very much for taking time to join John, MJ, and myself. I want to mention one quick little thing here. If you're watching someplace other than YouTube, John is awesome about throwing the link in at some point. Get over to YouTube, because if you put the comments, I can read them there. If you put them anyplace else, John is just mean and keeps them to himself.
Myself.
That is my pet peeve number one. We're not talking about
I have them. I know them too. So
basically,
okay. So I'm the one that gets left out. So
we keep, we especially when I talk about Dan, it's like,
oh yeah, I don't bring those up ever.
We don't bring those up.
That's being so mean. But anyway, hopefully tonight is better than an adult Happy Meal for you.
We were talking.
I had to. If you guys haven't heard yet,
Put it this way:
Happy Meal.
The toys in the adult Happy Meal have 2 less eyes than all 3 of us put together.
So our premise to this, Dan, is we just looked at it, but while you had stepped away for a second, is that they had a factory flaw on the run, and somebody at the marketing department's like, "Oh, look at all these flawed characters. What are we going to do with them?" And then somebody's like, "I got an idea. Let's make them seem like a collectible."
Yeah, from my understanding, they were designed by a little kid that they're raising the money for. But your way is probably more accurate.
Wow, do we feel bad now? Thanks, Dan. You ain't getting no information from the chat tonight. Psst.
That changes anything. But no, we definitely got to say hi to. I want to big a shout out to who was it? Who was the very first one? Who was the? I can't. Now my window won't go up.
John. No. Steve.
Oh, there it is. Steve Slick.
Yep, Steve was the first one in tonight, the first one, and then John came in second. So we've got a nice crowd coming into tonight's show. So tonight we're going to talk about pet peeves that we have as DJs. Now that could be things that happen in the process of running your DJ business. It could be things that happen involved with getting to an event or getting ready for the event, or it could be things that happen at the event. There's just a variety, a plethora of options where you can be dissatisfied. And tonight you can share those dissatisfactions, those unhappy moments that you might have as a DJ.
Tonight's all about unhappy meals.
Unhappy meals. That's right.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yes. Now, the part of tonight's show is going to be kind of the crowd interaction. And yes, there's the 30-second delay that we're going to be dealing with. But we really want to have you guys share in the comment section. If you have a little pet peeve or something that just drives you crazy, put that into the chat, and we will share those on the show as we're going along here tonight. I have no idea what that SoundCloud link is.
Someone sharing their personal SoundCloud.
Oh, okay.
Dude, seriously.
That's pet peeve number one.
My pet peeve number
show up
one.
to my events thinking they're DJs.
Yeah.
Peeve number one.
It's kind of tied
Stop sending me links to your mixes. Otherwise, I'm going to send you links to all 85 of my mixes one at a time. And number 2, if I post about a specific subject on Facebook, do not hijack that subject by talking about another subject. Send me a message. Don't hijack my posts. And I said I didn't have any.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to the actual pet peeves of the. You know,
Sorry.
but we'll get there. We will get there. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna get to, there'll be a few. We'll let a few more tick away. So the first one I wanted to talk about or share when it came to the little pet peeves that just really bug me, and this is one I think MJ may appreciate, is I hate it when people come up whilst I'm performing, whether I'm in the booth area or if I'm out on the floor, and they get like too close. They like have invaded my personal space and they're within inches of me, whether it's coming right up to whatever. But they've had a few to drink, and all of a sudden those boundaries of being able to talk at half an arm length comfortably, now they're like right here in my face, and they're wanting to be my best friend and talk to me within inches of me, of whichever way. And it just drives me absolutely bonkers when people just get to that point and then they become that stinky best friend with the bad alcohol breath.
Okay, you have stated a couple times about people getting close or touching your hard drive or different things like that. How do they get to you? Like, this is what I'm not understanding. How do people get that close?
You would think I would remember to put the new batteries in the cattle zapper, but I don't. And, my barbed wire skills of wiring a fence, they're not as good as they used to be. So the next thing you know, I'm just like little Bo Peep there, and I'm just all alone, and next they're there, and I'm sad.
But in all seriousness, John, do you run a facade in front of your system?
No, I do not. I've had facades that went up and around, but now I'm just basically table with a controller on top. So that's how they were. But the person who did touch the hard drive had come around from behind, which I at times have had. Back in the day when we were doing a lot of school dances and that was a thing, we would set up tables to keep the kids from behind the system. But after a while, it's like I can deal with it. It's hasn't been a big thing, but occasionally.
I have a couple solutions for that. One serious, one joking. Trade in the cattle prod for an electric fence. Works great.
Yeah, that would
say. And the other one, I do have things for people who stand too close. I do this thing where I'll, like, let's say they're on this side of me, and I will put all my weight on my right leg and then stick my left leg out as they're walking towards me, like I'm leaning, but the foot won't let them get any closer. Or if they get too close, I'll take my foot and bump them a couple times. Oh, sorry about that. Until they back up and give me space. And if they don't do it by then, I literally tell them, can you give me a little space? And then they all freak out and tell me I'm a terrible person, but I don't care. But there are little things, trust me, because I'm, like John said, I'm not a people person, so I have all these tricks about people not getting to me, not coming close to me. Me dancing while stuff's going on makes it really hard for people to get close to me. So.
I found it's not too often do I have somebody that kind of gets right in my face, but I will say it also depends on which system I'm using as far as when they get closer, more like easier. So for example, when I've got the big rolling booth, like they're not talking to me this way. In fact, they start to, and I'm like, no, just like I can't even hear you for a request. You got to come around the side. And usually I can keep that distance because that also gives me the flexibility of like, I can be by my system, but if you get close and you're too close, I can actually move away and I'm still at my system. But I will say with the furniture style, that would probably be my one negative about like the recent DJ furniture or whoever you've got is you don't have that quite that same barrier. Like mine's pretty, like my booth is pretty deep. That's, maybe my issue, but on the furniture, like there's nothing. So if somebody wants to like lean in to say something, they're over your system.
Yeah.
And so like a very different situation. And I had 1 week and a half ago where, and this was probably the worst I've dealt with in a long time. The guy was intoxicated, not drunk, but intoxicated. But when he talked,
spit all
and I was
over.
like the first time, and it hit my glasses, and I was like, and then the next time I was just like, you're coming closer. You're coming closer. So I just started moving away.
It's when the foot goes out and then they feel bad.
I got to try that.
Trust me, I do that. Trust me, if I'm standing in line at the grocery store and somebody stands too close, instead of facing this way, I will turn and give them the foot. And I've had little old ladies go, oh, I'm sorry. And then they'll do it again. And I'm sorry. And I'm like, sorry, do you not see my foot there? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on that. Well, give me a little space. I will not be afraid to tell someone to back the frick off.
Mm-hmm.
It's my life. COVID made me happy with the 6 foot space.
Respect.
I'm just going to
Ma.
start coughing on people.
That's just, somebody, Tim mentions, telling him that you've tested positive for COVID. You need.
Yeah, I'll find somebody that got one of the tests that were positive, and then I'll get it and I'll hang it around my neck as a necklace or something.
Look at this, man.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I don't know. Do we need to beat that horse?
Nah, we're good.
Give me a chance to beat the person, but
Sometimes that's the way you almost feel like you should do what you're doing. So, I
have a pet peeve I got to throw in here.
Go ahead.
That I saw this today. It was I don't even know how I came across it. Guy said, I have a pet peeve when I see donuts and I can't eat them. Just thought I'd throw that in. Like, okay,
so now let's correlate that to weddings, because there are times when they have a fabulous dessert spread like they did last weekend, and they had the custom cookies and the custom cupcakes, and people were talking about how yummy everything was, and they were all, it's like, wow, they must have the greatest baker because everything's delicious on his table. And then you're looking at this spread, and I'm thinking to myself, you know how many miles I would have to run to eat these things? Why can't they just have like bad wedding cake like every other wedding has?
I still say,
John, be glad you don't live in the Pittsburgh area. Like, wedding tradition in there is the cookie table. And I've heard of and seen pictures of not cookie tables, cookie rooms.
Oh my goodness.
Where it's just like gobs and gobs. And the idea, some of the tradition, it's almost potluck style. Like, I don't care how catered the event is. Like, the tradition in some of the Pittsburgh areas is everybody brings like a dozen or so.
Yeah, the whole cookie table came from a tradition of people bringing stuff. The cookie table does not come from the caterer. They set up a table and guests bring homemade cookies galore, piles of them, and you just eat what you want all night long.
And some
That's
people
the first place before they go sit down. That's the first thing you do is you go to the cookie table, then you go sit down.
Yeah, we had some of that happening last weekend. It was an interesting trip there. Okay, what do we have for our next pet peeve? Who wants to?
I didn't think I had any.
Okay, so I'll go next then if that's the case. One of my pet peeves lately has been couples who are waiting until the last minute to get me information. Like, I'm a big proponent, like, let's book our meeting 2 months in advance. I sit down with them and they'll know most of the things, but there'll be like a good 4 or 5 items that they just don't know that are kind of important. Like the song they want to walk down the aisle to, right? The song that they want to dance with their partner to. Like, those are things that
are pretty
need to know.
Yeah, those are pretty big.
And I kind of tell them, I'm like, listen, if you want to make a change, like, we can do things up to like a week before without too much of an issue. I said, you want to delete stuff, we can be flexible. I said, but adding stuff, I need to know, because I do I'll start putting some stuff ahead of time, but I put those final touches. I'd like to try even do it like the Sunday or Monday before the event, like that, just to give me that full week so that then I can just breathe. And my last 2 or 3 weddings, I've been getting stuff on Wednesday or Thursday. One, I even was like, listen, if you're going to do this, I need this by this time. And it was like 5 p.m. on Thursday. It finally came through. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, stop. Get it to me earlier, please. And maybe it's just my philosophy and my way. Like, I like things to be done because I know how insane things can get. But I don't like saving till last minute because I fear like I'm gonna screw up.
So back to the weddings. Speaking of last minute, we had talked about how the introduction of the wedding party is going to be, and in the booking process, months ago, we talked about there are different types of introductions to do. You can do the high school, the prom. Susie escorted by Billy, and that's what they chose to do. Well, the best man comes up after the ceremony, so it was basically going 20 minutes before we were going to be introducing, and he hands me a handwritten script that they'd written the night before that were custom introductions for the wedding party. So that's been the closest to. I've gotten something messaged over the day before, so I had time enough to copy, paste, and then fix things and put it in a way in which I would read it. I've never had one handed to me within a half hour of the reading of the wedding party introduction.
Audible.
So it's obviously a thing that they get together and they're like, oh, hey, this would be fun. Let's do that tomorrow.
And I get that to a degree. I mean, like that was the thing. Like they're all hanging out and they got this great idea. But in the same respect, you had this great idea. How about sharing it with us when you have that great idea? That this might, even if it's like the idea that this might be coming, not that, maybe you don't have all the details, but at least something to go with that. Oh,
yeah, that can be very frustrating. Let's see. Before it goes too far, up in the chat, Ultimate put in there the putting drinks on the equipment, which some people, I've run the Evolve 50s for most weddings, and some people have said that they love them because people don't put drinks on them because there's a little bit of slant to them.
They do.
Yeah, they do. And they invariably, they'll see the slant and then they try to figure out, and the cup slides a little bit, and then it's like, I'm back there like, no! And they're still trying to put the thing on there. And finally, it's like, okay, I go over and take it out of their hand, and because I grab a little table from the venue 9 chances out of 10 and have it just to the side so they can put their drinks on that. Some people do, and yet some people still think the speaker is their coffee table.
There are some companies, I can't remember the name, I did a video several years ago on, that make slide overs for different speakers, subs and different things, that is more or less like a scrim with a frame.
Yeah.
And you can put it over there that keeps people, with the slants already built in there. So if that is a problem you run into a lot, try to see if they, make it for your speakers.
Yeah, definitely. That especially subs. Subs seem to be the worst thing. I hadn't seen it on the Evolves for a while because, as John said, like it's mainly a slant. But there was one I did. It was just a few weeks ago, and like there was just enough. There's enough of a shelf to the side that if they have the right glass, they can put it on.
Yep.
And they had the right glass, and I was just like, I'd look over and I see it, and I'm like, and I'd put it, and then they kind of like look for their drink. They get another one a little bit later, and like that time, when I went to move it, I made sure they saw it. I'm like, no, this is not a table.
Happen.
Like this costs way too much. Put drinks on.
Those crazy kids. Okay, so I'm going to jump to my next one here, and MJ, you can play off these as we're going along. Another pet peeve of mine is the dance floor is going there, doing their thing, and then there's somebody on the dance floor that is making uncomfortable eye contact with you. As you're kind of bebopping, doing your thing, and made the transition, and yay, rah rah, and then there's that one person who's just making that really uncomfortable eye contact and looking,
or doing this with it.
Well, that I can live with but it's like when they make this eye contact and you're not sure. It's like, are you approving of what I did? Are you disapproving of what I did? Are you judging me? Are you hitting on me? Are you trying to figure out if I've got schmutz on my face? What is it? I don't know. I don't know.
That's where you almost like good on, like you're looking at me like, did I get it? Did I get it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
I don't give them the satisfaction of a look. So if they need to feel they finally need to communicate with me, they're going to walk up to me and say it. Yeah, if they look at me, I make sure I never look at them. If they're like they catch me to do that, I'll be just like look down. They're not going to get anything from me. No attention. And if the person does this, cut the song, I'll go, I ain't touching nothing.
Yeah, watch me not do that.
10 more minutes.
It's the extended version.
Yeah, so I just don't play into that. It's my job. Don't tell me how to do my job. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to be that way, if you can't come up and tell me yourself, you're getting nothing. And I know that sounds mean, but it's just, I'm not going to play your game. We're adults. If you have something to say, walk up to me and say it. Otherwise, shut the freak up.
Mm-hmm.
I have people, I literally had a guy one night complaining about, this is the most horrible music I've ever heard. And I went like this. And I said, you are literally the only person in this room not dancing right now. What is wrong with you? Go have fun. Can you not buy alcohol? I'll buy you a drink. What's going on?
Some people are just meant to be sad.
Meant to be miserable, I guess.
That's for sure.
Sorry, Dan, I interrupted. Go ahead. Daniel?
No, I was just exactly with what John was saying. Like, the ones that don't give you any sort of indication as to what they're wanting or what they're doing, it's more aggravating because like you can't really like the ones that are making a notion, like they're unhappy or like they just stopped dancing because for whatever reason you played the worst song that they think they ever heard. It must be Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
Huey Lewis.
Now you got to be
You
following.
beat me to it. I couldn't get it out.
Sorry. But you know, whether that's the case or not, like you just don't know. Like, and even if you look back at them, it's like, what? Like what? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want?
Yeah, I can't tell what people want. So it's clue. I'm not even gonna go into this. We're done with me. My opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I have way too many opinions. I remember in high school one time I took a journalism class, and I wrote about this in my book. The teacher asked me my opinion about something. Like, I really don't have an opinion because I was not a person to interact at all in school. And she goes, I know you're a very opinionated person. You can go ahead and tell us how you feel. And I wrote in the book how important that was to me to someone say that it was okay to have an opinion. So I have to blame her. All of this is because she told me it was okay to give an opinion.
Oh, it is it? Well, and then he never stopped. I think that's him. But as I was kind of going through today, and off and on thinking about tonight's topic about the different peeves and things, and there's many things that a person starts thinking about, and you start going through a typical event, that little quirky things that just bother a person. And as I was making this list, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, if a person has this many things you don't like about a job, typically you would be like, yeah, I think I need to find a different job. And then I started remembering is that, yes, these things maybe are irritating at times here and there, but there's not too many things you can do and too many jobs out there where you can go out and have your, you know, an open schedule for those of us who pretty much this DJ is what we do, have that flexibility of being your own boss and to be able to take an afternoon off to go to Walmart if you need to go buy, you know, like underoos.
That was a stretch.
Did you forget to finish the sentence? For my kids?
I want to be fun too.
Okay.
But it's just one of those things that somebody had mentioned earlier on, commented on the video before when I shared it, that, you know, looking at the positive side of it, and there are a ton of positive about being a professional entertainer who's doing weddings or whatever events you're doing. You know, it's kind of to a point, you're kind of lucky and blessed to be able to go and do this stuff, especially if you really enjoy it. So it's not that a person hates everything about it. And for some people who are thinking that's the case, there's just those little quirky things that if they all happened on the same night, you'd want to kill somebody. Just saying.
Yeah, I've always said that, you know, our job is literally to celebrate with people, whether it's celebrating a wedding or celebrating the end of a work week. You know, if you can't be happy with that, you shouldn't do it. But that does not mean you're going to be happy about everything. So that's the way, you know, we're looking at it. We're nitpicking, but it's fun to nitpick. So when you're giving us that freedom, John, we're doing it.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Dan?
And this is one of those moments where, in some ways, if you know, for example, if you've noticed, we've all kind of like started to laugh when we bring this up because we remember like this one moment or multiple moments that have been enough that we're like, oh my gosh, like why is this happening? But I think in some respects, it's fun to be able to vent to a degree, you know, and get it off and realize that you're not alone. Right, you're not by yourself. A lot of these are ones that everybody's dealing with, and you can't necessarily, you know, get this out with people that are not in the industry because they just don't understand.
And go ahead, MJ.
I was just gonna say, I've always said that about the expo. That's a great place to go and talk to people about what you do because I'm sure your wife or husband or girlfriend or whatever is tired of hearing you talk about it when they don't do it for a living.
Oh, for sure. So. But a prime example of when you can talk about something that some people may not understand is Rodney on Facebook. Thank you, Rodney, for putting this up. You know, have you ever felt like a babysitter, a high-paid babysitter at a wedding where the kids are all on a dance floor and the adults are over at the cash bar or over at the bar out having a smoke, whatever? And yeah, that one where the kids are out on the dance floor running crazy, and then all of a sudden they're into your lights and they're into your speakers, and they're like, "What does this do? What is it?" You know, that kind of a thing. Yeah, that definitely would put in that category of pet peeve moments for surely at a wedding.
What if the babysitter that you have to do is not for the kids of the adults, but it's for the 20-something drunks?
Yeah, there's times of that too.
Feel like a babysitter at times. No, go sit down. Here, drink some water.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots and lots of water.
No, she doesn't hate you as much as you think she does.
Oh my gosh,
Well-
there was one night that I did that. This girl was crying over my friend DJ for talking to a girl, and I literally pushed the wrong buttons. I said, "Oh, he would never leave you for her. He likes brunettes, not blondes." You know? She immediately started crying.
Nice.
I'm like, oh, probably shouldn't have went there.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't it. Wasn't it?
She was a redhead too, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but it was one of those things that I had to push the button the other direction, and she started crying, and I'm like, not the right joke right now.
This is why I don't want people to talk to me ever.
Right.
It's like, quit it. I don't like this. And there's pet peeve number 5.
Sorry.
And of course, when people are talking about pet peeves, we've been talking kind of more at the event, but there's a ton that have been shared on some different posts on Facebook talking about the booking process. You know, they pet peeve that, and we've talked about it on the show, not being able to get a hold of couples, not getting email or replies from couples with email or text or whatever methodology that they have. The one I wanted to touch, though, was the ones where you will have someone who has read like the little knot or wedding wire whenever they used to do the things that specifically the information of here's a list of questions to ask the DJ. And when you call, ask them how much it would be for a birthday party first to find out how much they charge. And then, oh, by the way, it's a wedding. So that way you know what their honest price should be. When a wedding wire came out with those two things a number of years ago, oh my gosh, it was just this, you'd answer the phone, and you start talking, and all of a sudden you knew that you knew what they had. They had that list right in front of them. We're going to go right down that list of questions. What kind of speakers do you use? Do you use professional microphones? Lighting is very important to us. Are your lights wattage wise? You know, that kind of, and it's like, that was a problem.
I was going to read.
I love when they ask I fortunately never ran into that one. I love the ones when they find some list online somewhere, and it's like a list from, easily 10, 15 years ago. Almost very similar to those ones that you were saying, John, but not quite. And they don't know half of what it means, but they feel like that's what they have to ask. No, you don't.
Okay, so the knot is where it was. Oh, they have a new version from 2021.
Ooh.
So first question is, what is your performance style like? What type of music do you specialize in? How long have you been DJing weddings? That one's a tricky one because I've had that one asked, and there's times where it'll be like, yes, I've been doing weddings for nearly 30 years, and you're like, how old are you? It's like, oh, I'm not that old.
29.
What are your favorite weddings?
I love when I'm at the event and they ask me that question, and I'm like, and I tell them, and what?
Most of the time, if they ask, and I have had it at the event, and it's like, yeah, this is my 4th wedding. Go that direction, and usually, and then we move away. But when they're calling on a phone and you don't have any kind of a repertoire with them at that point in time, it's like, okay, well, you can go find it online. It does say that I've been doing weddings since 1990. So yeah, I can't really fudge that one too terribly much.
What was the deal again? Explain to me about the question about asking about the 2 different events to see the price.
The birthday, because there was a big thing a number of years ago that DJs jacked their prices up for weddings. So if you really want to find out what they honestly charge for a weekend event, you say, hey, I'm planning a birthday party on August 12th. What do you charge for birthday? And then you get the price. And you can either choose to call them back and ask again, or have your fiance call them back and then get the wedding price. And then you can tell if they're trying to rip you off.
Yeah, that's false because first off, I explained this to someone one time. I'm like, okay, this is the chain of events that happen for a birthday party DJ. You call me, you ask for a price and stuff. I ask for the date. We give this, okay, let's book it. I send you a contract. You sign the contract, send it back. I touch base with you the day before the event. I show up the event, I DJ event, I leave. Weddings, we're going to do that 100 more times back and forth and this and that and meet and talk and cousin so-and-so and this and that. So you're paying for my time. Mm-hmm. So if you want to do this wedding where we just simply, me show up for 4 hours, I'll give you that price. But you get no specialties. So you have to look at what you do, and you absolutely should charge more for a wedding. And if anybody questions that, I would just explain it to them that way. There's nothing involved in a birthday party compared to a wedding.
No, for sure.
And there's a lot of, but I remember when 2020 or one of those like investigative type, news
Yeah.
programs did something very similar where they were
Yeah.
like, they were recording themselves calling and then they were like basically pulling that thing. And the problem is with a lot of those, you never get the opportunity to justify the
Mhm.
difference, right? I mean, that's why you have a lot of DJs who when it comes down to it go, I'm not going to share my price unless I meet
Yeah.
with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going to make sure I qualify so they don't get stuck in that situation. And I get that to a degree, but there's two potential alternatives that I see with this. One is, and I know this wasn't necessarily where we're going, but we went there anyway. One idea that I've heard is, you know, you're going out on a weekend, you're giving up that real estate of time, charge the same either way. Charge the same either way. You know, and some people I've heard even say with that is, okay, that birthday party, that milestone birthday party that you're doing is as much of a once in a lifetime event as the wedding potentially could be. So why should you put less into it just because it's a birthday party? And I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree with that, but that is something to definitely consider and think
Mm-hmm.
about. And run down that kind of piece. And if you are charging the same for either, nobody can go back to you and say, hey, like, what's the deal? And I don't know. I think if, in the same respect, if I was one of those people who was charging the same for both, I might consider doing birthdays a little bit more. But I know for me, it takes it away from a Saturday. There's
Prime
less
real estate.
planning involved,
Yep.
but yeah.
To throw in with that, and it's something I while you were talking, I brought up my contract that I added a few years ago that came about because of that, to where people were booking DJs for, we're going to have a family reunion, and it turns out to be a wedding and stuff like that to get the cheaper price. To where I put in my contract, I put it like this. I said, if type of event is not the same stated in this contract, Michael Joseph reserves the right to terminate services, and purchaser is required to pay 100% of original price stated in contract immediately. Purchaser can renegotiate price. If no agreement is made, purchaser still is required to pay 100% of original price stated on contract immediately. So that they get the idea that if you're going to book me for a birthday party, it's not going to turn out to be a wedding, or I'm walking away.
Mm-hmm.
You can say what you want. Because to me, it's so different. It's the same difference, me doing a club on a Saturday night or me doing a birthday party on a Saturday. There's way more work in the other. I don't talk to anybody when I go DJ. I show up, I DJ, I leave.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I take the same equipment, if it's an event where I have to take the same equipment, they're day and night different to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's Tony, along the lines there, but Tony's the opposite here, where a birthday party is more work because of mixing and mixing more than a wedding. And in some locales, their weddings, our wedding's an 8-hour day, so it's a monster of a day. But in some places, a wedding is 2.5 hours, and that's dinner, the dinner and the dance sequences. So I guess the argument could be made depending upon how you perform and what type of, how the events line up. But a birthday could be more work.
Here's a good example. I have done and will do small weddings and don't charge a giant price simply because there is less involved. Stuff like that. So if you want to look at things that way, but like I said, I just like to be a very honest person, because I've done $500 weddings before that were simply that, $500 weddings.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to, only talking I had to do was first dance, father-daughter. There was no introduction to party, nothing. And stuff like that, You have to figure out what's for you. My pet peeve is I just don't want to spend that much time becoming someone's best friend that I know there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to come back for repeat business later on, and I don't want to deal with that. Am I too opinionated? You guys have to understand, after every single show we go off air, I talk to John and Dan and go, I'm so sorry I talk so much. I'm so sorry I seemed angry. I'm so sorry I see this. So if you in the chat are unhappy with me, it's your time to be a pet peeve and tell us that you're unhappy with me, because I don't know. I'm just mouthing off for the fun of it.
You're fine.
That's what Dan always says.
and it's always right.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay, so my next one is dealing with venues. And specifically when I talk to a venue and we have kind of an agreed upon, this is the schedule of where we're going to do specifically the start of the meal. That's usually when I touch base with the kitchen about a half hour before the couple, say we're going to be eating at 6 o'clock. And it's like, okay, I'm coming there around 5:30 and say, hey, just to touch base, are we still on for 6 o'clock? Yes, we're still good for 6 o'clock. Great. About 20 minutes to or 1:45 and such, everything's still going. Yep, we're good. Now, the venues I work with, they know this is coming, so they do. Well, the venue I was at last, this was new to them. And it's like, okay, well, no, we're not actually 6 o'clock. It's going to be 6:20. Okay, that's good to know. Then I can plan accordingly. Wedding party, we're going to have to delay a little bit because it's 6:20 and we only have 10 minutes beforehand of activities. So our introduction is going to have to be here instead of here type of thing or wherever it's going to be. Okay, so they were good. Then so we're getting, and then all of a sudden the venue comes up there at 5 to 6 and they're like, yeah, we're ready to go. We can go right now. We can serve food. It's like, wait a second. You said 6:20. And now it's 5:55 and you're telling me I should be introducing the wedding party right now when I just gave them a break to go wherever they did. So it's a pet peeve when schedules are changed on especially with something important like the food or the parts of that, because they all of a sudden, like with one big walkout, all the food was there and now the guests are like, okay, so why are we not eating? It's his fault that we're not eating. Why is he screwing up our food? Yeah. It makes me unhappy.
While we're going the caterer route, I'll go ahead and well, you said venue, but for a lot of the places I play, sometimes there are 6 in one, half dozen the other. But obviously it seems like buffets have come back again.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they've been away a little bit for COVID, and now suddenly they're back again, and I feel like they're back with a vengeance. But whether you eat or not, we're not going down that path. But let's assume for a second that you do. The pet peeve that I've been having lately, especially with certain caterers that I work with, is that they want me to dismiss the tables. Now, I don't have a problem necessarily with dismissing the tables. However, I have couples that have come to me and say, we're providing a meal for you. So now we want you to work through dinner, inviting those tables up to the buffet line, and then be ready to go as soon as the last person gets through the line. But we want you to eat.
Yeah.
So a lot of times my frustration, I guess, in some aspects is because I become part of the catering staff, inviting people to the buffet line at a time when I should be playing music. I should be doing something with that. Or if you are providing me a meal, that's fine. Let me go through, let me get my food, and let me get back to playing music and working that piece. If they ask me, I'm fine. But I actually had one caterer who I had to be tearing some equipment down, and she was like, we need you to release tables. I'm sorry. I've got to go take care of this system that had to be a third one that we had to set up because of logistics here. Well, what are we going to do? I don't know. You chose not to bring enough people. Like I know the caterer. I know they have the staff. They choose not to. Okay. Then the venue decided to step in and go, well, we can help out. I'm like, I'll figure it out.
Should any of that be in a contract also ahead of time about like what are my responsibilities outside of DJing, as in organizing with the blah blah blah? Or
the problem that I've run into with it a lot of times, and you're right, you could potentially put it in the contract of like, listen, this is not my job type of thing, or what your responsibilities are covering in that. But what I've found with a lot of these situations is the couples don't necessarily want you to be the one that's inviting people up.
Right.
But the caterer shows up and doesn't bring enough people to serve the food and have somebody that goes and invites the table to serve like the buffet feed out, and doesn't have enough to invite that person to the buffet or invite those tables up. And so whether it was the plan or not, it potentially falls on you to help things run at least somewhat smooth.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is I mean, there's a lot of DJs, especially in my area. I don't know many who do, who actually play through dinner. A lot of them put on a mix and then go sit down for an hour or whatever. They don't actually physically do anything during that time. So for those caterers, it's like, well, of course they can help. Like, they're not doing anything during this time. But they wouldn't ask the photographer, who's not taking pictures of people eating.
Yeah, the photographer's got a plate and they're sitting at a table somewhere.
I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying like
Right.
It just automatically falls on us. And I'm telling them, I'm like, listen, I'm not doing it over the mic. That's okay. We don't need you to. We just need you to go to the tables. Okay, fine.
Just don't get me started. Next.
Shauna mentioned about making a game out of it, and there have been a couple of times where when I've talked to couples about can you release the tables, and it's like, well, let's do something with it, and we've done a game of it, and ideally, if I can do similar to what you're saying, Sean mentions having a couple of die there and roll the die, and then that table goes. It's been more of a luck of a draw, is that way they can draw on table 12, go. But the problem becomes now the bride and groom are being interrupted and they can't eat. So it's tough to be able to do something like that. The best is just the caterer, the venue, or whoever, to have somebody there or the host and hostess is what usually around here, they're the ones who go and release the tables, and that usually takes care of it. So, okay. So this is one that everyone's got at some point in time, but the inappropriate request, that it's the greatest song ever. You play this song and people are going to go crazy for it. And either the song is stupid, the song is offensive, the song is so obscure and out there that I've never heard of it. And that means that probably, start asking questions and you can find out pretty quickly that no one in the room knows the song. Just the times when it's a request that you just know is there to, and it might be something they do like. I'm not saying they don't like it, but it's just one of those songs. It seems like they're wanting to give that to you, so you're going to look like a fool when you play it, in my opinion. And that's just it's like we're dancing, we're having fun, we want high crowd recognition, and you're asking for this. It doesn't go with what we're trying to do here tonight. It just irritates me.
Found a lot of times I don't think it's the idea to make you look like a fool. I think in their brain, and I think I've seen this more with Spotify and YouTube being readily available to them, that they feel that if it's there and you're playing off a computer, even though they don't see those programs when they go up and look at it, the thought is, well, then you have it, and because I like it, you should play it, regardless of whether anybody who's even heard of it. I had that happen this past weekend, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I've never even heard of the artist, let alone the song that you're asking for. And there was two of them that were side by side, and their eyes got huge, and they like pulled it up on their phone and they're showing me. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't help. Like, if I don't know it and I don't have it, I'm not playing it. Like that. That's just, it's not being rude. I won't have a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That was one time that happened. It was just like they thought if they asked me like 3 times, like they kept, like somebody else would come back up from their group. Can you play? I told them I don't have it to play. And that's one of the reasons why I love not having Deezer or one of those other things hooked up, because I can legitimately say, sorry, not an option. In fact, it was kind of funny. The one this past weekend, after the two that got the wide-eyed walked away, there was a third person that was kind of with them, and they wanted to request something too. And they're like, what song was you requesting? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, I looked at their phone. I didn't know it either. And I'm like, okay, now I don't feel so bad. Now it's not like, now it's not like a song where I'm just like, I'm late to the party. It's like, yeah, no.
There wasn't a party to begin with. Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything because I'll go on for like 10 days. I agree with your pet peeves.
Now the weird songs that you look at the dance floor and you're like, this isn't going to work. Now we'll flash back to that last wedding. Somebody came up and said, can you play King Harvest, the Dancing in the Moonlight? And at the time, this is later in the evening, and the dance floor had been dancing, and people were having a great time, and we'd been doing something. I think we were doing like a '90s or whatever it was. And I'm looking at the room, and it's like, this is just probably not going to work. It doesn't seem to be quite the right crowd, but it might, because of the whole Guardians of the Galaxy thing. It might have some legs. So after I did a song that kind of transitioned towards that direction. And ironically, it went over really, really well. And then followed it up with an excerpt from Mr. Blue Sky and Some Kind of Wonderful. And it was actually one of in the last 2 hours of the dance, probably one of the best sets from the standpoint that you had everybody that was there out on the dance floor singing along and such. Even though it wasn't fast type songs per se, they had great crowd recognition. So sometimes some of those weird requests, I guess, can work. Sean mentioning that
agreeing with you.
The son that only having clean version, and they get mad because they want the profane version. Yeah, the number of times that that has come up. Oh, you can't play that version of It Wasn't Me, Shaggy's. It Wasn't Me. But this is the one I'm going to play if I'm going to play this song. Oh no, I want the one where they use the words. You got to have that version. No, I'm sorry, and that's not going to come out for this computer. You got to play the right one. It's like, I don't have it. And does it look like I have Deezer?
I have Deezer and I have iDJ Pool, and I'm like, I don't play that stuff.
Yeah.
You want that? You need another DJ,
or you need to go out in your car and play it loud on your own time.
I just don't play it. Well, we're all adults here. I'm like, I'm not playing it for you. I'm not playing it for me. Okay, it's simple as that. I'm not playing the dirty version because I don't want you to hear the stuff. I'm not playing it because I don't want to hear the stuff. So if you want to hear it, you have to go somewhere. I just tell the truth. I don't care.
Sean,
it's my job. I'm not going to be rude like I am right now. I'm not going to be like this, but I will do it in a way going, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't. I'm not going to. Like, what if I tip you? You pay me $10,000. I'm still not going to play it. Simply because I don't have it, and I'm not going to download it, and it will not be played through my computer. I'm sorry. Usually they look at me like I'm from outer space.
Yeah, pretty much. I would think so, yeah.
I get a lot of those outer space looks. Oh, you want me to buy you a drink? No,
See,
I'm good.
that becomes the uncomfortable eye contact I talked about earlier. They look at you like...
You thought it was on the floor. That's when they come up and talk to you.
Yeah, then you just start looking at them going...
And then that's when they think, oh,
that
he wants to
evil
talk.
eye that kind of twig,
And then they get right here, and then all of a sudden it's like, your deodorant's getting on my shirt. Ew.
How do you let people get that close?
I don't have a foot thing going on yet. I mean,
they didn't know the trick. You've been holding out on us on your trick.
That's even like the mildest tricks.
I'm sorry, but
you just got to. I mean, there's so many things where you turn towards them and you move towards them like that, and then they back away. There's just so many things. Talk with your hands.
I thought you did the hula hoop hips, and if you hit them with your hips and they were too close or something,
They're not even. They shouldn't be able to reach out and touch me. If they can reach out and touch me, they're too close. I've literally told. There's a couple times where girls will come up, put their arm around me, and I'll do that. Flinch. Now, 90% of the time, it is a legitimate flinch because I don't want you touching me, and they'll go, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "It's all right, good." Then they'll take a couple steps back and start talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy with the flinches. I don't care. I know you all think I'm a horrible human being and a horrible DJ. I am much more tactful with these in real life than I am talking here. This is where I get to express my true feelings. So if you come up and try to, get me on one of these, you're probably going to get a little politeness.
Mikey asked about if a client demands that you play it. This is a conversation I have with all of my clients, whether it's in the booking time or whatever. I'm pretty open with this. Is that I'm not going to play something that isn't a radio edit. It's got to be a minimum of a radio edit. I just don't carry it. And if someone would be like, "Yeah, you got to play that song, and it's got to be the profane version," I don't have it. I'm not going to do it. And we have this conversation in advance because when we talk about requests in the planning process, one of the questions I ask is, do you want me to take requests from the guests? And some couples say yes, some couples say no. And it's just, in that whole conversation, it's like, and if you do want me to take requests, I just want you to know that, as we talked before, is that I will not play anything that is going to be very sexually explicit, or anything that's using profanity, because I do not carry that. Everything I play is radio edits. But even with that, there's going to be some songs that I'm not going to play because I don't want to have to answer to your grandmother. And most of the time the couples are like, okay, I get it. And that's the end of the conversation.
It's in my contract about 100% clean music.
Yeah.
And just for the record, Brian, I am approachable. I'm very approachable. This show gets the grumpy side of me because I get to express myself. I don't get to do that out in the real world.
That's true. We have to smile and say yes. Go ahead and make those weird eyes at me. It just doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Yeah.
I will say that I have not had that conversation with my couples, and I'm thinking that I need to have it just to prevent an issue. I have my one strike against me in the review world, right? I applaud myself in the fact that all my reviews have been 5 stars except for one. And it was because it was a bride who not just wanted a profane song, but wanted the profane song during the garter toss. And she wanted Ludacris Move, and you can go the rest of it. And I was just like, I'm sorry. Like, no, like, you know, especially at that point of the night, like, you've got all ages there. Sorry, no. And I was like, I'll play the edited version. And I said, anybody wants to sing it, they can sing it. And she was just like, okay. And then when it was all said and done, it was like flexibility or some weird thing that they put for star rating. There was a 4. And I'm like, yeah, I held my ground on it, but it was just like, it was one of those kind of irked me. And it was like,
I would have taken that as a 6-star rating. It's like, yeah, I did.
Well,
I was me.
But I mean, when you're looking at the overall numbers, and it was like, you know, till this was not early in my career, but early enough especially in the review process, that, you know, it brought that overall, you know, number down a little bit. And it was just like, it was just and it was at the time when I cared more about, oh my gosh, if I'm not perfect, then nobody's going to want to hire me. No, it was fine. But it was one of those things where it's just like, it was unrealistic because I'm like, I'm sorry, especially at that point in the night. Like, I know there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not going to do anything until the last hour, because at that point, grandma's probably still not there. Like, she's home in bed by that point. But I'm sorry, I'm not budging on the line.
Yeah.
One, because my biggest thing is I don't want to have it on the computer and then accidentally play it at the time that I should not be playing it.
Sure, there.
Or for an event, I should not be playing it.
The casinos have a rule that it has to be all clean music, and there's guys who've been fired by accidentally playing the wrong version. So
Believe it.
Yeah, I could see it.
It's too easy to get that mixed up because you're busy people talking. It's one way or the other. So I think it's a good thing to communicate it. Do the best you can. And Dan, I'm going to give you that extra star for free.
Aw, thanks.
Okay, so coming up, let's see, tomorrow night we've got Ben Stowe coming in. We're going to be talking wireless microphones and frequency on that, and revisiting that just a little bit to talk about what you would need to know if you're going to be expanding your microphone system, if you're going to be adding more mics, or if you're going to be replacing. There's a little bit of changes and such in that, and just to really kind of update us on how to make those all work well together. Tonight, when we're done here, hanging out with Howie, DJNTV.com/chill, you can pop out there and chat and be part of the show. They record, and then after that, it's open up chat. Tuesday night at 10 o'clock Eastern is the Tuesday Night Music Show with Brian, Jay, and Howie. Again, DJNTV.com/chill, and you can check that out. And then, that'll pretty much, we get some other shows that'll be dropping little segments here and there throughout the week on the YouTube channel, so you guys can catch those. And then, we'll see when we'll meet again next week. So we need to jump. I see things are getting ready to Howie's time.
That hour went fast.
Mm-hmm.
Happens when you're griping and complaining. Anyway. Thank you very much for taking time to unite. If nothing else, hopefully you found some humor in what we were doing, or you're like, yeah, I've been there too. We do appreciate you spending your time with us. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.